We're going to start taking some notes here on parts of an experiment. Okay? So, parts of an experiment. We're going to start off here with talking about a variable. So open up your box on variable, and below it, you need to write these factors, if you will, folks. A variable is any factor, trait, or condition that can exist in different or differing amounts or differing types. So a factor or part of an experiment that will differ. We have three different types of variables that we're going to talk about today. Three different types of variables. What do you think they are? Any guesses? Yeah. How about the other three blocks or doors you have? How about an independent variable, a dependent variable, and a control? So a variable is any factor, trait, or condition that can exist in different amounts. So as we talk about these, let's first talk about a control. The control is the group I'll give you a little bit of time here to copy it down before we talk about it. The control is the group in an experiment or study that does not receive treatment by the researchers and is then used as a benchmark to measure how the other tested subjects do. So basically, the control is what the researcher uses to look at to see how the other parts of the experiment were affected. Okay? We're going to discuss this when we go back to INB page 23. That diagram I had you copy into your interactive notebook. We'll discuss this control variable, independent variable, dependent variable, using that as an example here in a second. So I want to get the definitions down to everything first. Okay? So the control, the part of the experiment that does not receive the treatment. The independent variable. The independent variable is the variable that is changed or controlled in a scientific experiment. The variable that is changed or controlled in a scientific experiment. So it is what the experimenter, the scientist, is controlling. A good experiment only has one independent variable. If you have more than one independent variable, then you can't decide which one of the variables is causing the effect on the experiment. So if you have more than one variable, it's not a very good experiment. We only want one variable to have a good experiment. As the scientist changes the independent variable, he or she makes observations about what happens and collects data. So you change the independent variable, you control it, you make observations of what happens, you collect the data. The last one is the dependent variable. So open your dependent variable door. What is the dependent variable? It is the variable that is being tested in an experiment. The variable that is being tested in an experiment. You can kind of think of it like this. It depends, the dependent variable depends on the independent variable. Okay? It depends on the independent variable. So, in a good experiment, we have one independent variable. That one independent variable will cause something to happen to that dependent variable. As the experimenter changes the independent variable, there is a change in the dependent variable. So as the experimenter changes the independent variable, there should be a change in the dependent variable, and then that change is what you are observing. That's what you're collecting the data and writing the data down for your experiment. Okay, now what I want you to do, I'm going to click here. Let me click on this guy right here. Look familiar? This guy look familiar? That should be page 23 in your interactive notebook, this diagram. Okay? Now, I told you yesterday we would go through and label this. So let's look at this, folks. The title we're going to save tomorrow. We're going to save the title for tomorrow. So we will give this experiment a title tomorrow. If I look at my experiment, I can see that up here I have white light, yellow, blue, red, and green light shining down on this plant. So, as I think about the independent, the dependent, and the control, okay, as I think about my variables, what do you think is our control in this experiment? Jacob? Plant number 5? Okay, why do you think that? Because it's white light. So our control here is white light. Now, open your box of your independent variable. Tell me what the independent variable is. Somebody tell me what we just did there. How about Reagan? Go ahead. Tell me what the independent variable is. Well, yeah, but I mean, give me a definition of independent variable. What is controlled or changed by the experimenter? And she was exactly right. What is the independent variable here? The color of light. So the color of light is what the person running this experiment is changing. Now, what do you think the dependent variable in this experiment is going to be? Okay? What do you think the dependent variable is going to be? Derek? What about it? Okay, and how's it going to change? What are we looking at? How the plant does what? Grows. So plant growth is going to be my dependent variable. Well, what's it going to depend on? The color of the light, right? The independent variable. So the dependent variable is what changes based on the independent variable. Okay? So you should have those filled in. The control is white light. The independent variable is the different color of lights. And finally, the dependent variable is going to be the plant growth. Okay, I like The Simpsons. Are The Simpsons still on TV? Huh? They still air it, but they just don't make any new episodes? Okay. All right, we're going to use this Simpson. We're going to use the Simpsons to help us identify controls and variables. Okay? So, who wants to read this nice and loud for me? Okay? Anybody? Anybody? Okay, since you're right here, Wyatt, thanks. Go ahead and read this nice and loud, that paragraph.
Smithers thinks that special juice will increase the productivity of workers. He creates two groups of 50 workers each and assigns each group the same task. In this case, they're supposed to staple a set of papers. Group A is given the special juice to drink while they work. Group B is not given the special juice. After an hour, Smithers counts how many stacks of papers each group has made. Group A made 1,587 stacks. Group B made 2,113 stacks.
Okay, so Smithers here, he's saying, I think that if this special juice is drank by my workers, they are going to increase their productivity. So they will staple more papers. He has a group A, has a group B. Okay? So, in this particular experiment that Smithers is running, what is the control group here? What is the control group? Nathan? The control group is group B. Why are they control? Why are they control? Because they are not getting the special juice, are they? So group B is the control group. Now, what is the independent variable? What is Smithers manipulating? Yeah. Well, it is group A, but what is group A getting that group B doesn't have, Ethan? The special juice. So my independent variable is the special juice. The special juice is my independent variable. Now, if you remember, the dependent variable is what is affected by the independent variable. So what is Smithers actually measuring? The productivity, which is what? Okay, the ability to staple papers, right? So the dependent variable is what he's measuring, and that's staple papers. So the dependent variable is stapling the papers. Now, let's look at the data. Let's look at the data. Group A made 1,587 stacks stapled. Okay? Group B made 2,113 stacks stapled. Okay? So, would Smithers' conclusion, what was his conclusion? What would it be? Okay? What would he conclude based on the data? Right. He thought that the special juice would speed up their productivity. Did the special juice speed up the productivity? It actually slowed them down. So he would conclude that the special juice doesn't work, does it? Okay? So I just write down here, special juice doesn't work. Now, how, okay, this is just a thought, how could we change this experiment to improve it? What do you think, Nathan?
Have more groups to try. Like have several groups try.
Have several groups try the juice, and maybe, how about varying different amounts of juice? Okay? Maybe this group didn't drink enough of the special juice. If they drink more of the special juice, maybe they would be more productive. Okay? So maybe having more groups drinking different amounts of the special juice. Okay? Now, ladies and gentlemen, your homework for tonight, if you look up on the board, your homework for tonight is to finish number 6 through 19. So do the rest of that page and the other page for homework, and that is due tomorrow. We are going to grade that first thing when we come in here tomorrow.